Hello there, Michelle Short here for My Favourite Things. Today I have two trendy tags to share with you using the same supplies but creating different looks. So this is the Trendy Tags Die-namics and I have used the outside tag piece and cut that 4 times, twice from smooth white cardstock and twice from watercolour cardstock. I want to have them so that they're sandwiched between each other so it looks nice on the back and the front. I'm starting off by using some temporary adhesive and I'm just placing that down in my MISTI here so that it doesn't move around, and then I'm taking the larger image from the balloon bouquet stamp set. I've actually never heard of a bunch of balloons called a bouquet before. I actually think it's a really lovely word to be able to describe the balloons. So I'm going to stamp that onto the tags and I'm just doing the exact same thing for both tags at this point. I'm going to ink up the stamp, the bouquet of balloons, with some Versamark ink. So I'm just prepping my tag here with an anti-static powder tool, wiping off the excess powder, and then inking up that stamp with the Versamark ink. I'm making sure that this is really well inked up. Ideally, I just want to stamp it once and not have to double stamp it. So I'm pressing that down. Although I'm pressing fairly firmly, I'm being careful not to press down too hard and distort the image. Once that's stamped on both tags, I'm taking some detail white embossing powder and sprinkling that over the tag. I'm tapping off the excess and then I do apply it a couple of times just to make sure that I get a really nice coverage of the powder, and then I can heat set that until it's completely melted. I do like to heat set from the front and the back. I think that helps to prevent warping. Once the embossing powder starts to melt, then I do keep the heat tool from the front. Unfortunately on camera you can't see the magic of the embossing powder melting because it's white on white, but I absolutely love, still after 15 years of crafting, I do absolutely love to see the embossing powder melt in real life. I'm then using a Swiffer cloth just to remove any of the excess powder from the front, and then I'm just using my finger to get rid of that repositionable adhesive onto the back of those tags. Then for my first tag, I'm going to spray into a splat box. So this is the splat box here, and then I've got a craft sheet underneath, and that's just going to help contain some of the spray. So for the first tag, I'm spraying directly from the bottles. I'm using Distress Spray Stain today. I do like these sprays because they react with water. The colours that I'm using are Twisted Citron, Salvaged Patina, Mermaid Lagoon and Chipped Sapphire. And so I'm just spraying those onto the tag. I do actually like how it looks at this point, and in some ways I think I wish that I had left it like it was, but I did want more of a blended look. So I'm going to go in with some water to try and blend the colours together, but I sprayed on way too much water. So I'm going to dab off the excess ink and the water with a paper towel, and then I'm going to spray that again. If I had sprayed the tag first of all with some water, when I had sprayed the distress inks on top, they would have blended a bit better. I did want more of a blended look for this tag, so I'm going to go back in here now that the tag is wet with those same sprays and spray them over the top. And as you'll see, once I spray them on, they do blend a bit more nicely and how I really want them to be. So once I'm happy with that, I can set that aside to dry, and then I'm going to work on my second tag. And for this one, I didn't want a blended look. I wanted a bit more of a splattery look. So I've got a craft sheet here and I'm spritzing the spray onto that craft sheet. And then as you can see, I'm pouncing that tag down into the ink, and this is the ink smushing technique. I do really like it. It gives a bit more of a kind of splattery, organic, artsy look, I think. And I just like the different look between the two different tags. So I started off with the Twisted Citron and now I'm going in with that Salvaged Patina colour. I really like that colour. You could definitely do this technique with normal ink pads. You would just smush the ink pad onto the sheet and then add a bit of water on top, and then you can just pounce that tag into it as well. For the Chip Sapphire, I didn't want too much of a darker colour onto this tag, so I just got rid of quite a bit of the excess ink with a paper towel. I have sprayed that with some water, and then I'm just heating that so that the ink dries. And then I'm going to go back in with the salvaged patina colour. I really love this colour, like I said, and I'm just going to add a little bit more of that onto the tag. And then I'm going to go in with that Mermaid Lagoon colour, and this time I just went in with my fingers just to move that around onto the craft sheet. My fingers ended up blue, but that's okay. And then once I'm happy with that, I'm going to dry that off, and then I just want to add some water droplets. So I'm picking up the water from my craft sheet with a paintbrush, splattering that on, and then allowing that to dry for about 30 seconds, and then removing the excess, and that just creates some extra interest, and then using a cloth there just to remove any excess ink from the embossing powder. This is the tag that I sprayed directly with the sprays. I'm just drying that so it's completely dry, and then I'm going to do the same thing and add some water droplets on top. I have sprayed a bit on my craft sheet, but for the first application I did just go directly from the bottle. Again, left that to sit for about 30 seconds and just removing the excess with a paper towel. And then I'm going to pick up those water droplets with the paintbrush again and just splatter that onto the tag. Although I liked the blended look on this one, I did still want some interest with the water droplets, and that's what I personally quite like about the Distress line, because they react with water. But like I said, you can do this with any other ink pads. So once I'm happy with that, again left that for about 30 seconds and then removed the excess. And then I did just make sure that those tags were both completely dry. And I'm going to bring in the other tag here so that you can see the difference between the two. I've used the exact same products, but because I applied them in different ways, you get a completely different look. And I do like them both for different reasons. For these sentiments, I'm using the Itty Bitty Basics stamp set. I really love this set. It's got tiny little sentiments on it. I decided to go with the happy birthday for both tags, but I do think that these tags would work nicely for lots of different occasions, especially kind of congratulations and things like that as well. So I'm just prepping my black licorice cardstock with an anti-static powder tool, removing the excess, and then inking up the sentiment with the Versamark ink again. And this time I'm just pressing really lightly. These sentiments are absolutely tiny, so I don't want to distort them. And then just moving that cardstock up so that I can stamp the sentiment again. I'm going to apply the same detail white embossing powder, adding that on, tapping off the excess. And then I can heat set those until they're melted. And again, I'm heat setting from the front and the back, which is going to help prevent that warping. I'm going to use a Swiffer cloth to remove any of the excess powder. And then I'm going to die cut those sentiments with the Itty Bitty Strips Die-namics. I used two of the same size, but one has a banner edge. In this instance, I didn't actually need the banner edges, but I do really like that they come in the set, because then you've got a bit more versatility and you can create different edges on your sentiments. But for these ones, I wanted to keep the sentiments really quite small, and so I cut the two sides off using my mini guillotine. So here are my two tags completely dry, and I have those smooth white cardstock tags so that I can add onto the back. So I'm just adding some tape runner adhesive onto the back of the tags. And I'm also going to use some on point precision glue just to go around the edges and that top piece there. With tags, I do often like to add them onto cards, but sometimes I do add them onto gifts and things like that as well. So I do like to have them finished on the back so that I could write a message. Sometimes the back of the tags, even with the inking there, it does look quite nice, but I do prefer it if I'm going to write a message on it, just to have it nice and clean. So I'm using that on point precision glue so that I've got a bit of wiggle time just to make sure that they're lined up perfectly. And then I'm going to add some twine through the top of the tags. It does take me some time to fiddle around with the bows, but I do like to keep the tails of the bows quite long. Once I'm happy with those, I can just cut off the excess. And then I've got my sentiments here and I'm just figuring out where I want to place them. I thought that I would place them in slightly different places on each of the tags. And then once I'm happy where I figured out where the placement is, I'm going to cut some thin strips of foam tape and just add that onto the back of the strips. I think these tags would look really nice with a die cut sentiment as well, but I didn't want to cover too much of those balloons, so I thought that I would go with these tiny little sentiments. I really like that the tag on the right, you can see the balloons really well. I don't think you can see them as much on the tag on the left, but in real life you can still see them, so I do really like the look as well. So just using some tweezers to help me out with the placement of those sentiments. And then I'm going to add some raindrops onto these tags. So I'm using that On Point Precision glue again, just adding very small dabs of that glue onto the tag. And then I can add those raindrops on top. I thought that these tags would work really nicely for masculine tags, or as I said, to add onto cards if I wanted to. And so I don't tend to add too much sparkle onto masculine projects. You definitely can, but for my family I think that I just tend to go quite basic, so I really like these raindrops. They don't add too much to the project, but they add just that little finishing touch. And so that's the tags finished. I really like that you can create completely different looks with the same products, but you can apply them in different ways so that you get the different looks. This one here, like I said, is a bit more kind of arty, kind of going towards mixed media-y, but not quite. I still think it's quite clean and simple. And then this one here is a bit more of the blended look. Like I said, I think you can see the balloons a little bit better in that one. And while I was creating these, I thought that I would do some pinky orangey colours as well. So I did create two other tags in the same way and added a little bit of shimmer onto those. So I think that I will finish those in the same way. So that's the projects finished for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Links to the products that I used will be in the description bar here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a wonderful day.